This is Kelly Wentworth from Survivor San Juan del Sur, and you're about to listen to one of my favorite sources for all things Survivor. This is Survivor Talk with D&D. So find your flint, grab a bag of rice, and all your fishing gear, and let the bartering begin. Take it away, D&D.
Thanks, Kelly. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am Dwayne.
And I'm David.
And we're just two best friends talking about the show we love. We've been doing it for, what, 2.5 years now? Maybe 3? No, I guess it's 2.
3.5. This is our 7th season.
Golly. Crazy.
Man, if I was your wife, I'd be so ticked right now.
Yeah, if I was your wife, I'd be ticked that you wore that hat.
Hey. No, but the watchers will be glad because they'll be able to see something instead of a glare that will go through their screen.
Well, I don't know. We do got Steve on the show tonight, so I'm not sure how that's going to... Oh,
all right, I'm out.
Leave now. Hey, everybody. Tonight we are talking Survivor with 3 very well-known Survivor experts, authorities, savants, pundits, nay, I say, gurus. We have 3 of the best with us tonight on the Survivor Talk with D&D show. And to my virtual left at this virtual roundtable, to my virtual left is Andy Baker. He writes the Baker's Dozen over on Two Dork Times. So, Andy, hello to you, Andy.
Hey, good to be here. I mean, I'm excited. Season 30, we've been hearing about it for a while. Looking forward to kicking it around with you guys. I know full well I come in 5th place on this podcast.
All right.
A lot of luminaries around here, but I'll try to hold my own with these guys.
All right. Did you bring your tinfoil hat, or are we no tinfoil hat tonight?
You can, I'm sure, bait me into almost anything.
I bet we could. Sitting across from me at our virtual table is Steve Helling from People Magazine, and he's also a dad, and you need to read about it in the People Magazine article. I guess it's been about 2-3 weeks ago now.
A month.
Yeah. So, Steve, it's good to see you, Steve.
It's good to be here. And yes, I am the only one at this round table who's been on the cover of People Magazine. I was gonna say that.
And let the contest begin. I won't tell you what my dad used to say whenever this would happen because we're a family-friendly show. So I will not tell you. And
it's okay, I'm winning.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Sitting next to David at our virtual table, attempting to hide notes from David's wandering eyes, is none other than Gordon Holmes, whom we have all been enjoying his interviews with the castaways. From Xfinity.com, it is Gordon Holmes. Hello, Gordon Holmes.
Thank you so much. I'm just bummed that I didn't date Jennifer Aniston long enough to get on the cover of People Magazine. It was for like a hot minute. So you don't really hear about that often. But maybe if I get her on the rebound.
Maybe.
Wow.
This is going to be fun.
That's good.
Okay, now just to let our listeners know what's going on here, David and I have never actually, we know Andy, and we know Steve. We talk to him all the time. On a whim, I thought, I'm going to ask Gordon if he wants to come on the round table, and he said yes. So David and I don't really know Gordon. We're going to get to know him tonight. But I want to know Steve and Andy. I know y'all are good friends, but Gordon, I'm going to ask Gordon. Gordon, do you know Steve very well or Andy very well? Do you know each other at all? Or are you just like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into?
I try not to read too many other Survivor bloggers just because, like Robin Williams, they said that he didn't steal jokes, but he recalled things that he thought might have been his. So I tried to not read too much other of the Survivor coverage. But I'm very familiar with both of their work. I think they both do a really great job. But I think Andy in particular goes into such, mine is basically just the most obvious jokes you can go for, but Andy, like strategy-wise, just really kind of blows it up. And I've really enjoyed Steve's stuff as well. So I'm actually very excited, but it's early, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Those opinions could change.
We have to figure that we all have different audiences. Mine is the casual fan, whereas the diehard fans pay more attention to these two fellas.
Right. True. And then the rest, the ones that aren't sure who they are, that's David and I. Yeah.
Clean up the rest.
Yeah. This is our fourth preseason podcast for season 30. We're going to get to these guys in just a second at the round table, but we want you to check out our first three. We had our initial thoughts where David and I literally read the bios on CBS and just kind of reacted to them, and our ideas were totally off base. And but it's fun to listen to. You can check them out on iTunes. Then we had a closer look with Kelly Wentworth, and I mean, I don't care if you want to listen to it or not, but you got to watch it because hello, Kelly's on it. And then of course we had our listener feedback and stuff like that. Tonight is our roundtable. Next week is our Survivor D&D Fantasy Cast. It'll be Thursday, February 19th, live at 10 p.m. like we normally are. And David and I are going to draft, because David and I play against each other in the D&D Survivor Fantasy Draft. We're going to draft, and Kelly has asked if she could come on and mock David during the draft. So
she didn't
Kelly,
get enough 2 weeks ago. She wants to come back for more.
She wants to make fun of the way he mispronounces her hometown and stuff like that. But so Kelly will be on next week, and I know y'all are thinking, we'll get this one over with. We want to see Kelly. Sorry, you got our ugly mugs for the next 2 to 3 hours. But anyway, so she said, hey, do you mind if I come on? And we said, well, let's think about that. No,
let's see. Do we like high ratings? Let's think.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, remember, during the season, we're going to be on our one-show-a-week schedule with an occasional Sunday night special guest. So our Thursday night show will be a discussion and feedback show. So watch the show on Thursday night, write your feedback or call it in, and we'll talk about it on Thursday.
Maybe they should watch it on Wednesday night.
That's what I said, David. You just misheard.
It's the
watch it on Wednesday.
You're in a different hour. Time zone.
Yeah. All right, everybody, thanks for starting your Amazon shopping using our links. If you don't shop Amazon, you should consider it, and go ahead and get there using our links. I use Amazon every day to check to see if y'all are using Amazon. Yeah, that's what I do. So anyway, it's going to be a fun night. 15 of our nearly 2,000 weekly listeners support us through Patreon, and you could too. Patreon.com. Just go to our website. There's this green Patreon button over there, and you can click it, and for as little as $1 a month, you can help our caffeine addictions and stuff like that. So here we go. All right, guys, let's get to talking. I got a question. There using our link. Yeah, somebody's watching us live. I've got a topic that we'll start everything with, and then we'll just go. We'll just talk. All right, so I don't care who starts, but why are you excited about this season, assuming you are?
I'm excited about the season because, I like this cast. I like this cast a lot. I think that it's a good mix of people for a change. We've had a few casts that I won't mention that just haven't been very good, and this one looks really good on paper. So.
Yeah, I'm actually intrigued to hear what insights Gordon can throw at us from having met them in person. When you see them on paper and you get these short interviews that we have so far, and we get his on-paper interviews, there's a lot of personality here. There are people that know the game. The story on how this season got cast is pretty fascinating. And we've heard that the strategy specifically is supposed to be pretty dynamic this season, which goes above and beyond the typical Probst, I love this season. There's some reasons for it, ones that appeal to me. Everything on paper is exciting, and what little taste we have of their personality is pretty compelling. But I think Gordon probably has a better read than any of us.
Well, Steve's right. This cast is just phenomenal. It's easily the most of all the casts I've ever been out to interview. It's easily the one that I'm most excited for. And I get a little biased towards the seasons I'm out there for, but it was really tough to sit through season 29. Not that I enjoyed it, but I was just really dying to get to season 30. So I'm very excited about that. I just want to preface this. This is going to be totally spoiler free. Any comment I make about an individual player, that's based off of the rankings I made before the game started. So you don't have to worry about me spoiling anything. The comments I make for individual players will be based on the interviews that we conduct.
Right.
I like to go into a preseason like a game of 5-card stud or poker where you get dealt 18 cards, and by looking over the cards, you find out which ones you want to discard. And when I looked at the 18 for San Juan del Sur, I discarded a lot of cards for newer castaways. I was only a few that I kept and really wanted to watch, but with this season, I kept a lot more. And as every 24 hours, I either pick up another one from Gordon's interview or don't. But I've got a lot of cards in my hand from this season, and that's a lot of people I want to watch play the game, and that's what's got me so excited about this season.
Oh, and then, I mean, just the interviews alone. I know as of this recording, we are missing 3, but so many of you have an advantage over us that you've already read his Gordon's interviews with him. But even those interviews change our minds on people. I mean, it's just great. And they're all going to be fun to watch. Some are going to be fun to watch get off early, but but it's going to be a really good show. I'm really excited about the season.
They changed my mind. I conducted these back in August, and then I knew Shireen's interview was really good. I remember that Rodney's interview was really interesting. But I have a notorious horrific memory. So Lindsay, I just remember Lindsay seemed like a nice girl, but I was transcribing it today, and she's genuinely funny. She's someone who really knows the game. So I'm even finding little surprises in these interviews as I go back and do them. So there's 3 left. We got Lindsay, we got Max, and we have Nina. And so Lindsay tomorrow, and then Nina and Max Monday and Tuesday, and then we'll be done. No more transcribing.
All right.
What's been good though about your interviews is we're getting what we're not getting from the videos, because the videos are so short. It's almost like a extra scene from an episode. They're like a minute and a half, if that. So your interviews cover so much more. We get so much personality, especially from Jen. My goodness, the personality that came out of her interview was hilarious. So I'm looking forward to the rest of them.
Well, it's kind of like what Steve said is, you've got a casual fan, you have a hardcore fan. A casual fan is not going to sit through, 20 minutes of Jen talking about Dungeons and Dragons and, oh, look, there's a crab. So I understand why they do those really tight little interviews. But so it's nice to get to, let them stretch their legs a little bit, find out more about how they're going to play, where they draw a line in the sand as far as lying or flirting or anything along those lines. So I'm happy to bring it to you guys. I've enjoyed them as much. I've enjoyed them more than everybody else has. It's really been every time I do a new one, I'm just like, man, someone else that I'm genuinely excited to see play this game.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to even ask you this, but how much of the interview do you have to leave on the floor and say, oh man, I wish I could put this in, but I just don't have? I mean, you must have so much stuff just laying on the floor that you could wish you could share.
Yeah, there's. Not really, because I get like 10 to 20 minutes with them depending on how the day's going, and most of it ends up in the interview. The one big thing that I cut just because it had nothing to do with anything was Vince when he was younger. I guess he grew up in a commune, I believe, and he thought he had grown up with Parvati Shallow. There was a girl in the commune named Parvati, and they had interacted, and I guess they drifted apart, and he thought that this was her. So Parvati was, of course, out there as the press, and she had to, break the news to him that it wasn't her. So he thought that.
That's hilarious. Oh, how hilarious! Can you imagine going up to Parvati? Do you remember when we were in the commune together?
How many Parvatis can there be? But apparently enough for that to happen.
All right, so we got 3 tribes. Y'all like the 3 tribes? Not these 3 tribes, but the 3 tribe versus 2 tribe survivor approach?
I do now.
Go ahead.
I do now. I'll tell you that I was one of the ones that before Cagayan was like, oh man, let's just write this season off right now. It's going to suck. And it didn't. It was a great season. And so now I'm totally on the three tribe train now.
I mean, for me, I sat down after Philippines and tried to figure out why the dynamic works so well. And I think I've written about it in the column before. It's what I love most. It's about the ever-expanding game. You start with 6, where there's no place to hide, and then when you swap, you're in a tribe of 7, and then when you hit the merge, you're in a group of 11 or 12. And so it's just the dynamic of the game keeps changing. And you end up, the people who can navigate those 3 different sizes, it just takes a different set of skills, and so you have to be pretty nimble. And I like how that feels as opposed to when you go from 2 tribes of 10 to a merge. So I like it. Plus, television-wise, you can get to know the characters, I think, a little bit better. 90-minute premiere, 3 tribes, 6 people. They're interacting all with one another, and so we get to know them better, I think.
I think I'm in the same boat as Steve, where when, before Cagayan, I wasn't that excited for it, and, because it made sense to me that if you have a 6-person tribe, the first thing challenge strength is more important than anything. So it seemed like the first boots were going to be pretty obvious, and then, the brains kept losing and their boots kept not following that direction. So, but like Andy said, like it really, it stops it makes it less likely that one tribe is just going to dominate the other. It's if we're going off based on Kagan, it was awesome. So why not roll the dice again? And with this cast, I think they could have a hit.
Right.
Hey, one of our listeners, sorry, well, it relates to this. One of our listeners, Patrick, had a question about the 3 tribes. The last 2 times we've had 3 tribes, we've had Matt Singh and Luzon, 2 losing tribes, and he's wondering, are we going to see a third 3-tribe season again in a row where one tribe's going to get decimated? If so, which tribe do you think could get decimated? Just preseason guesses, because so much is going to change, with the shuffle and with the merge and everything else comes around. But if you had to pick one, which tribe do you think would have a hard time with the early challenges?
Well, these look pretty well balanced this time. So I mean, you could look at Matt Singh back in the day and be like, I don't know about that tribe. These tribes look pretty even, so it might not happen.
For me, I mean, I think easy. Sorry, go ahead, Gordon.
No, all yours, Andy.
Well, I think with Matt Singh and the issues that one tribe has had, it's both overblown and underblown at the same time. Overblown in the fact that Matt Singh was very close in that first challenge. The problem is then other tribes get to start sitting people, and it can steamroll you. But I do think that the tribes are pretty balanced this time. I don't foresee one tribe falling completely apart. I think they are savvy enough that they will. I think some non-physical players are going to be in some real trouble early in the game for that very reason, to keep the mat singing from happening. And you combine that because you have so many savvy players, they know the history, and so they're going to try to protect against it. And when you add in this whole, I know, Gordon, you got to experience this, I read your column about it, that with the puzzle choice, so even that puzzle and sort of that mental ability is going to be somewhat downplayed if they do that more than just the first immunity challenge. And so suddenly physicality is going to be incredibly important. So I think you're going to see some women go early, but I think they're balanced enough. In my little sort of prediction fanfic, essentially, I can see all of them losing at least one before you hit a swap.
That would certainly make it more interesting if that happened, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think, Gordon? Pretty even tribes?
I think the tribes do seem very even, and I always say that every season is a product of the last season. A season. A season is the product of the last season they saw before they went out. In this case, It's Cagayan. Where these people saw Tony be rewarded for big moves, and they also saw the Brains tribe get decimated when they voted off their challenge strength early. So yes. I think challenge strength is going to be a lot more appreciated this season.
Right, and you know what else is good about that? They didn't see season 29, so maybe they won't eat all their rice in 2 days. And
they can trade it for a sandwich.
Yeah. They'll say, "Hey, Probst, we would be willing to give up this log or another bag of rice." And Probst will go, "Sure, not a problem."
Yeah, this is our chair log. We all sit on it every day.
Yeah. But Probst, please, we ate all our food and we're willing everything.
Yeah, I agree that I think the tribes look pretty balanced. If we get a different loser the second episode, to me that's already a great season of 3 tribes. Just to have a different tribe get a tribal council in the second episode.
Yeah. So would you agree that it's probably more, well, my thought is it's more fun for us to watch 3 tribes. It may be harder as a player, though, to be in 3 tribes because you can't hide as easily in a 3-tribe system as you can in a 2-tribe system.
Well, absolutely, because in a 2-tribe system, when you have 8, 9, or even 10 people on a tribe, all you have to be is the second most annoying or the second weakest, and then you have 3 days to figure it out, or however many days. When it's hard to be the second most annoying among 6 people.
Right.
It's just
yeah. Well, it may not be hard, but
it is for me.
Yeah. I'm just looking.
Like, I'm the most annoying person at this table right now.
Well, we already.
That's why we're letting you talk first, just to get it out of the way. And move on from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me time, Steve. But yeah, he's exactly right, though. Like, I always say I would never be the first person voted out of a 9-person tribe because I'm decent in challenges, and I can. There's always a Wendy Joe. In this instance, you get to the beach, and 4 people are automatically like, "Yep, we're the foursome," and that 6th person, it's only season 2, then you could be the first person out without doing anything wrong. So it kind of turns up the heat pretty early there.
Yeah. Well,
I was just going to say it also depends on it's always the luck of the draw, because you look at people who go really early in one season, like in One World, Nina might have done really well in the Philippines, where her tribe would have been older. It's total luck of the draw, and when there's 6, 4 people get together real fast. And, in Philippines, Lisa Welchel was going to be the first to go off of that tribe if they had lost, and she's lucky. Well, we're all lucky she didn't, but CBS wasn't going to let that happen. But
yeah, really.
That's all I'll say about that.
Out there going, no, there are no L's allowed on this parchment. Okay, well then let's look at the let's look at the 3 tribes then. And Gordon, I don't know if you'll have to not be able to say anything about this because you saw the first 3 days, I think. But who are the 4? Who are the 4 that we think are going to get together at the beginning? We'll start with the white collar tribe. Andy?
That's a really interesting question, because I've kicked this one around a lot, because if you're going to have a parallel to a Brains tribe, you have players here, several of them who know the game really well, and I'm sure we'll dig into this later, but every time I think about this tribe, I think about how it's going to filter through Max.
Right.
It's a question of whether or not who's he going to embrace? Is he going to embrace Sheeran? She's very bright, which, depending on what his vibe is off of her, she could be threatening or she could be perfect. Tyler could be a good, guy he can talk to, who could be sort of a loyal meat shield. Or he could have his own plans, and that's where it's a vibe thing. But if I'm going to go out on a limb, I'm going to say Max, Sheeran, Tyler, and they pick up Carolyn as a 4th. I think So's in a lot of trouble, and I think Joaquin is utterly useless.
See, I thought So might have been in trouble too, and then I read her interview, and she kind of moved on up there for me. She knows Max. She recognized Max right away. So what if she connects her very quickly?
There's 2 things there. One, I thought I was going to be really smart and predict that she knew Max, and then I saw the headline to Gordon's column, like, damn it! I knew it! But she is also one of the 2. We saw some press photos. She's one of the 2, it looks like, who is going to go back to camp first and possibly choose food or idol. And I think that will put alarms up for Max. And I think Max is going to surround himself with people that he can control, people who are likely to navigate to post-merge and he can insulate himself with. And I think someone like Carolyn would be more appealing to him.
Right.
And so there's too many young people out there for her to bond with on other tribes who will make it to the merge, and I think he'll be able to paint her as a threat.
What's amazing is that everybody I have spoken with, and maybe even all of you as well, when we look at this white collar tribe, we all think, what's Max going to do? What's Max going to do? And that's going to determine what the tribe does. Is that?
I don't think that. And granted, I I don't know Max like you guys know Max. I just don't. So, the bottom line, I'm not saying like you hang out with him, but
Right.
to be perfectly honest, and I don't know what to think about Max. And what I have to say is that, it depends. You can know everything you need to know about this game. You could be the one who's taught a class at Northwestern about it. And if you're not one of the 4 that locks eyes at the right moment, you could still be in trouble. So I'm not looking at this and saying, how is Max going to build this tribe? Okay. I hope he does, because I think he'll be interesting. But he could find himself on the outs, and I don't always think that he has to be the power player.
See, I agree with Steve. I agree with Steve in a sense that I don't think he's going to stick his beard out there to be the leader. I think he's going to be smart enough to not do that, to let Sheeran do that, or let Tyler do that. Let somebody else do it. I think on the first day he's going to be in the conversation. I just don't think he's going to be the one that wants to make the decision to put his name out there and say, well, that's what he said we're going to do.
Right.
I would do a Kim Spradlin deal and just let other people do it, just as long as they do what he wants them to do.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to.
I hate that Gordon's not talking. I want to hear what Gordon says.
Well, based on the pregame information, I think David nailed it with Max. I think it's wrong to assume he's just going to jump in there and take over when most people who study the game know that's not the best strategy. But I think this is a tribe that has so many gamers. Some people are just they're here to see where it takes them. Like I assume Joaquin, but like So and Shireen and Max, all 3 of them, like they know the game so well that they all have the potential to be strategists. But I don't know if any of them is going to jump out and try to take over any kind of leadership role.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to sort of mischaracterize. I mean, Max, this is where my ego is going to kick in. I think I know the game pretty well. If there are people out there who know the game better than I do, Max is one of them. And he knows to not stick his neck out, but he's charismatic enough and intelligent enough and savvy enough that he will be a part of those conversations, and they will come to the conclusions that I think he'll want them to, because they will be logical, they will be sound, but I think people will find themselves, like Tyler will start approaching him and wanting to talk to him and talk things through. Even So said she wanted to be work with someone like Max. So I don't think he's going to capture and insist on being the leader, but I just think he's going to be at a commanding presence because he knows what he's doing. And he's certainly not going to be an early target, and that always gives you a place of confidence to come from, just because he's a cross-fitting beast, he's in great shape, and they're going to need that physicality, and he's bright, and again, he's charismatic, and he's easy to talk to.
Right.
We could also we could also be looking at a Tandang situation where the 4 that started together did not end up controlling the vote when they finally went to tribal council. Mm-hmm. So he could lock it. He could get a foursome. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to keep them. It could rotate and change. That's what's so great about Survivor. From day 1 to day 15, could be a totally different game.
Right.
And Max of everybody, I think in this entire season, benefits from this format the best, because if you put him on a tribe with a bunch of Cat Edersons, I don't know what would happen. But he's on a tribe with 5 other educated people. Although, what's with Tyler being like an ex-talent agent assistant, which that means he's unemployed. But generally speaking,
that's the pretense to put him on white collar, right? Because he was originally no collar, and they moved him over there. I worked at a talent.
Let me tell you. I work with talent agencies all day long, and I work with the assistants.
Yeah.
Blue collar at best.
Well, a little inside baseball Survivor here. Yes, Tyler was on the no-collar tribe until a last-minute put-in, from what I've heard. And y'all aren't disagreeing with me, so. And I didn't hear it from y'all either, so I'm not giving anybody away. So do we all pretty much agree Carolyn, Shireen, Max, and Tyler would be the 4 that we think from that group? And Gordon, I don't know if you can say that.
I could see that, but I could see him putting some people on probation. Not if they don't lose, if they don't come in last in the immunity challenge, he'll have some. I could see him pulling in 5. bring it because like if you read her Gordon interview, she's going to sidle right up to him. She
Okay,
sees who he
there's
is and she wants
5.
to be included.
Okay, Jesus had 12, but he had 3 that he stuck close to. So I'm not saying Max is Jesus. Great. Guess what Max is going to tweet later on tonight. But but what I'm saying, he may say he has 5. Let's assume, because we're talking about David's theory here, that Max is in charge, right? Right. Let's just assume that. If that's the case, he may have 5. He may have 5, but he'll only have 4 or 3 that he thinks are right there with him.
Yeah, well, and in that 5 leaves that Joaquin is the one who's left out, but he's not going to be the first target. He can't be if physicality is going to reign supreme. So.
True, and so then you got to go for or a Carolyn, or maybe All right. So what about the blue collar tribe? What do y'all think about them? What about those 4? What top 4?
I'm going to recuse myself on this one.
Okay.
Are you going to explain why, Steve?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
It's because he has a blue collar on right now.
Yes. It's because of the blue headphones and the blue wall.
Well, I guess with you recusing yourself and Gordon not wanting to give anything away, it seems like I'm going to be the one who's hypothesizing all of this stuff. My sense is that it's going to be a tribe that skews older, where there's some commonality there. Mike, Dan, Kelly are all older. I think Lindsay is going to skew older, being
I agree.
A single mother. I think Lindsay and Mike are possibly a natural pair. She was coming there to flirt, and I think Mike's going to probably be in control early, and she'll gravitate to that. I think Kelly and Dan are. One of them's going to be in trouble early just because of the physicality question. I think Kelly's probably an early boot. I think Dan might be in some trouble just because the early word, I think this came from your interview, Gordon, that Probst is saying he's trying too hard, and I can totally see that. And Dan, I'm rooting for the guy because he was supposed to play in the Durham Warrior Survival Challenge, the Bob Crowley's event up in Maine that I played in this past summer, but he got the call to join the cast 2 weeks before the plane left for Nicaragua. And they wanted to bring in people who sort of knew the game, and I can't help but root for the guy. He's so high energy, but I think he might be in trouble. But I think Rodney is cast for conflict. I think he's going to be on the outside and eventually get the boot without ever. I know Gordon, you said that he's got he's quite the character, and I know Probst seemingly loves him as a cast member, but. He's not a player, especially in a cast that's this strong. He's definitely a fish out of water. And my sense is Sierra she was also a late replacement. There was somebody who I knew who was late in the casting game, and I think Sierra replaced her because she looks better in a bikini. But I also think she doesn't really know the game as well. I think the heart of that is probably Mike and Lindsay. But I think they're going to skew a little bit older. But I think they may have some trouble with, if there's one tribe that I can see being entirely eliminated by, late in the game first, I see it as possibly blue collar.
Gordon, let me ask you a question. You, in your interview with Mike, he said there was only one girl out there that he was attracted to. Do you know who it was? Was it Lindsay, or do you know?
The problem with not the problem, but with the interview process, I'm pretty much a blank slate. That's why you hear me say things like, if there's a twist, what do you think it will be?
Right.
It's as generic as, what do you think of this cast? It's not like, what do you think of that blonde?
Right.
It really has to be, they have to bring the information to the table. So I'm not sure he's talking about, he said it was someone young.
Right.
Maybe, I'm thinking maybe Haley. That would just be my guess based on what I assume his likes in women are. But again, that's just a guess. As far as the blue collars, as Andy had pointed out, Dan Probst did call out Dan as probably his pick for one of the first boots. Dan, he's a nice guy, but you feel like you're getting shtick when you talk to him. Which people kind of distance themselves from that. They don't feel like they're really getting to know him, and that's how I felt during our interview. Super nice guy, but again, I felt like he was saying things he'd probably said many times before. And then I wanted to talk real quickly about Rodney. And Rodney is somebody who, you see the muscles, you see the tattoos, you read about him in my interviews, giving ham sandwiches in exchange for Michael Jordan shoes and all this crazy stuff. But like, it seems like it's people's instinct to not like him or think he's a slimeball, but like, he's got a really good heart. So he's someone I could really see a gamer taking under their wing and maybe making a run for this thing, like if he gets deep enough into it. So I wouldn't write off Rodney just as like a meathead. So I think there's more to him than that. I think he's a lot more likable than that.
Yeah, I got from your interview, if my thought was if Rodney saddles up to the right person and makes a good first impression, after that they'll know that he's just being Rodney. But
yeah, exactly. Being Rodney is probably the perfect way to
if he goes up to Mike or even Kelly, if she doesn't recognize him and arrest him, but if he saddles up to the right people, and I agree with Andy, I think Mike is probably going to be the figurehead leader of that group. He may not be as casual as Max would play it, but I can just see him and Kelly and even Dan in that group. But like you said, Dan could be a casualty if it's a physical thing and he's not up for it. But if Rodney makes a good first impression, as built as that guy is, that's the captain alpha male. He could last longer than most people predict him to, just on the Rodney stick that he's been given off.
Right. Gordon, one of the things I mentioned, I think I said this about Dan in our first episode, was that he seems like the jolly guy that is always has something to say and he's always funny. My concern was, is he too much of that? Is he too over the top where people are like, okay, I've had enough of that? Is that the sense that you got?
I don't get the sense that people would be annoyed by his antics. Like again, like he's a super nice guy. It's just the thing. And Probst said that he's probably great at parties in the sense that I'm sure he has his anecdotes and he has his go-to jokes and things along those lines. And I'm guilty of that myself. Like you have your stories that you tell, your go-to jokes, but I never got past that. And again, this is an interview set. I'm sitting there with a recorder, recording every word he says. Maybe he's uncomfortable around reporters. Who knows? But that was just the impression I got from him that I didn't get from any of the other 17.
Hey, Gordon, I need to ask you, Rodney. When I see Rodney, I see a new version of Jamie from Guatemala. Am I anywhere close?
All right, you got to refresh my memory about Jamie from Guatemala.
Crazy Jamie, who got voted. Okay, never mind. Jamie Newton. You don't remember him. Don't worry.
Is he the one that got in the kind of the brawl with Bobby John?
Yeah, with Bobby John. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I see. So,
yeah, like Rodney, like I think what I want to say is I could see him falling into like a lieutenant role with somebody else and making a good run for it. So, don't get me wrong, he strikes me, if you took a cheap shot at him in a challenge, you would probably regret it. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he has that kind of short fuse. But, no, like, I feel like the impression most people got was dumb meathead, and that's not what I got from him at all. Like, I think he has a real good heart.
I will say one. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve.
I will say one thing. We talk about first impressions being so important and everything. I do wonder. When you're talking about some of these people, this is the one tribe that everybody isn't from California. So when they see somebody like Lindsay, seriously, all the others, they're all from. They're probably from the same street. This one, when you see people from Maine and Texas who see a woman from Florida with a facial tattoo, are they going to automatically think she looks like a cool girl, or are they going to think, not her? This.
I don't know that we heard that last part. Did y'all hear that last part?
No, it dropped.
Okay. It dropped. Okay, well, it wasn't that important anyway.
Well, actually, the great thing about it is our audio listeners will hear it because we're all recording local, so it'll be good. It'll be on the audio podcast, and we'll all be like, "What did he say?"
He insulted all of our mothers, and we
yes.
From the blue collar tribe, I didn't get as much of a sense as I did from the white collar about how many people knew the game, about how deep they were. Dan, I feel, knows the game he's applied like 1,200 times, but overall, when Andy just mentioned about when Sierra joining, I think late or as a fill-in, I got the impression from two people that they're not quite aware of what they're about to do, and I
Well,
think Sierra was one of those.
Sierra definitely is not a Survivor fan. Mike claimed to have watched it since Australia. Lindsay, I think she watched it when she was younger and then got back into it and then went back and, if I remember correctly, watched every season. Who else we got there? It was Dan. Rodney, definitely not a fan. So of the three tribes, probably the least Survivor savvy of the three.
Right. One of our listeners, Weed Bay Guy, I'll let you figure out what he does for a living, says, I could see Rodney riding through like Wu did with Tony, but I don't know who the Tony's going to be on that. I mean, who that person would be. I don't know that I see anybody on that tribe. Maybe Mike, who could take it to the end and, use Rodney as his Wu man.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I have Rodney as a potential, actually making the merge, but I can totally see him. I like that term, lieutenant, but I can just see him, like, if he gets the numbers advantage, can he be diplomatic enough? If he's down in numbers, is he going to be too antagonistic? There's some edge to him. And you always worry when you combine edge with not a deep knowledge of the game. How's that going to come out? Is there going to be some sense of power entitlement? Is there going to be some I'm stressed and my back's against the wall and I'm going to lash out? So he's going to have a strong presence who shapes his game for him. And the question is, are people going to have the patience for that?
See, this is what's so good about all these podcasts is that my mind changes like every 7 days. That we do this on different people, and I could agree to see Rodney get into the merge, but I don't see Rodney pulling back and not making himself a physical target when it comes to the individual game.
Yeah.
He was trying out for Hero, I think what it was, and they moved. They said you need to do Survivor, and the guy said he's a captain of the football team. So I mean, he wants to do well, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just have a feeling he's not going to know not to put himself out there.
Right.
Once he gets to a merge, and that could put him in danger. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Well, once we get to the merge, a lot of times you get like those balancing challenges and those finesse challenges, which I'm not sure he would necessarily excel at. But yeah, any kind of lifting or anything too physical, he probably would excel at. But it feels like lately they've been pulling back on those.
Right.
Yeah.
So anything else on blue collar before we get to the no collar? Anybody else? Last minute comments? Okay. What about that no collar tribe?
Let me say, of every tribe in Survivor history, this is the tribe that I would quit the game 30 seconds into the game if I were.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I just looked at it. I was like, oh man, I would be toast on that tribe. That would, So.
Yeah, looking at this tribe reminds me of why I've never been called.
Wow, y'all are being harsh.
No, I mean, I'm sure they're lovely people. I'm sure they are, because I'm sure they're all listening. But I'm sure they're lovely people, but there's just, how like you get into a situation, you look around, and you're like, oh man, what have I done? Oh Lord. Yeah. Well, that's what I feel like this one would be. So.
Well, okay, I'm going to take the totally different point of view here. I love these people. I love them.
And notice that Andy has no collar.
Yes.
Yes. But you're right in the sense that if I were to land on this tribe, I'd be in a world of hurt because they're going to skew young. I mean, Will is in all kinds of trouble. Nina's in all kinds of trouble. I think Hallie and Jen are going to be a heck of a team.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be. At least one of them was talking about Joe as the Greek god with the flowing golden locks, wanting to work with him. Yeah. And I think it comes down to, again, who they want as their fourth. Nina, apparently, according to the Probst interview, is complaining in the early days, and so if she's whining too much, they may by default pull in Vince as a fourth. But again, Will and Nina are in trouble just as any older player. Like if Dan Foley was dropped in on this tribe, he'd be out in a heartbeat.
Right.
I do love that they have a law student on the no collar, because when I think of no collar, I think of lawyers.
But she surfs.
I just
She's
I'm
a
still
biker
not over
dude
that,
on the
so.
inside, you know.
Collars are a mindset, Steve. A mindset.
No, when you're paying $80,000 for a law degree, you're white collar. Sorry.
I think people look at the no collars and they see Vince and they see his feathers and they're like, screw this guy. But you know, being face to face with him, he's not as intense as he would appear from his pictures. I enjoyed my time with him, and I think we're very different people. You'll notice the white collar. You know, I sit behind a desk all day. I make all these rules, but like Vince is like he's like a decent guy. Like the story I always tell is when before Survivor South Pacific, we didn't know who the two returnees were going to be. And I remember being at LAX and running into another press member and being like, "So, any idea who the returnees are going to be?" And they pointed to a back corner and they're like, "Well, Coach is over there doing yoga." So, sure enough, there he was. You know, like again, like Vince is he's a nice enough guy. Although Rodney did mention that he did some kind of ritual before he would eat anything. So I missed that. So yeah, he might rub some people the wrong way with those kind of antics. I think Will seems really out of his element. Yeah. He might have been better suited for blue collar. And again, it does seem to skew younger. Right. So that might cause some troubles for Nina and Will. But that's, you know, again, all based on pre-game interviews. So
yeah, Will is the other one I felt like didn't realize he was about to go on Survivor. That was just the impression I got. That he's what you know where you're going, right? He looks ready for the Amazing Race. You know, his wife put him on the race, but he's about to go on Survivor.
Yeah, he like gets off the plane. Why are we on an island? What? Wait a second.
Well, it's like Taj said during Tonkachine's her first day. She was like, "Where's the craft services table?"
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so we do have a comment on our YouTube channel. It's from Julia Lowe. She says, "Woo, So Kim for the win. I have a strong feeling that she is going to run the show after I watched the latest Survivor ad and read her interview with Gordon." Is there a new ad out I don't know about?
I don't know, but I certainly agree with that part about reading my interview.
Yes, of course.
Spot on.
Yes, absolutely. Hey,
I want to go back to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please, Steve, go.
I want to go back to the no collar because as I was reading through their bios, I loved that Haley would bring a ukulele and then Joe would bring like a fully stocked self-replenishing ice chest.
Yes.
Those are the type of answers that make me think, all right, let's think about reality of what you would really bring. I am not good when I'm around people who aren't taking things seriously, and I wonder if this would be a tribe where people are not going to take it as seriously as the others. When you sell coconuts for a living, I don't know how cutthroat you are.
Right.
Well, I do wonder, I tend to not put too much stock in the CBS, the bio stuff, insofar as, they're selling a package, and the package is, okay, these people are no-collar people, and so they can edit these things right up until when they release the cast. Right. And they may have had pragmatic things, but they're like, no, you're the no-collars, be playful in your responses, be a little silly here, and I also think that some of those answers were from young people who, aren't going to be all super serious because, especially if they're fans, they've read these things over and over again, and they've seen all the boring answers, and so they're going to have some fun.
Yeah, as long as they're like Parvati, it does not matter what they take to the island. Just be like Parvati.
Because all you have to do is flirt, and you're going to win.
Mm-hmm. I got the feeling, right? I got the feeling that when they looked at Joe, they said, "Hey, he looks just like Malcolm. He's tall, long hair. Let's talk to him." Well, he looks like Malcolm. We'll take that as it is. He looks like Malcolm. Let's just throw him out there and hope for the best. So, I did not get the childhood love for Survivor that I got from Malcolm from Joe. I mean, Gordon saw him face to face. I got to see his reactions and stuff, but I just didn't get the in-depth savvy that Malcolm brought. Malcolm brought a world of Survivor. He practiced everything before he got out there. And with Joe, I just didn't feel that. But I think he's on the tribe that benefits him the most. I agree that it's a young tribe.
I would like to say, if any potential players are listening right now, when you have to fill out your bio, you are not like Parvati, you are not like Ozzy, and you are not like You're just not. So just choose somebody else. Just choose Jeffra. Choose somebody else.
There is one answer that's worse, and that is no one has ever played this game the way
like me. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
I think wasn't that Joaquin this year?
I think Rodney said something similar too, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Wait, wasn't it Rodney who said there have been other guys from Boston, but they're not as good as me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's only gonna take Rodney 3 chances to win.
He can win that game in 3 turns.
All right. Well, hey y'all, let's talk about this amazing, or is it, day 1 twist? What do you think about it, Steve? Why don't you explain the twist, Steve, and then
and tell us what you would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's basically like Kagayan redone, except for it's not 1 but 2 people who get to choose whether to get. Is it a smaller bag of food or a smaller bag plus a clue, or a bigger bag with no clue for a community idol? It all depends on who the other person is. What I would choose to do.
Yeah.
And you have to make that decision within seconds. I know, but generally speaking, I think I wouldn't want to come across as sneaky, and I would probably take the bigger bag of food, which might be my undoing. But I'm sneaky enough, and I'm disingenuous enough in real life that I don't need to give them another reason not to trust me.
All right, somebody else.
I was thinking about that. You know, what would I choose? And I feel like you're kind of damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And coming right on the heels of Cagayan, these people are all thinking they're going to have a chance at a clue. So I wonder if the best play is to be like, hey, I got a clue and a medium bag of rice, and because other than that, they're going to assume that you got a clue and you have an idol. Is it better to have this idol out in the open and just play it on the first possible opportunity? It just seems like you're putting a target on your back real quick. So I think that might be my play, is to just be as open about it as possible.
Right. David?
Well, once again, my thoughts have fluctuated on this. I think when we talked to Kelly 2 weeks ago, I said there's no way you don't take the clue. And now I'm leaning towards the point of not taking the clue, taking the rice. But it would depend on who you're with. But at least you've got an honest answer when you go to talk to them. Most of the people are going to know there's a clue waiting for somebody back there. And if you show them the big bag of rice, and then at the same time, I'm making plans with the other person to say, look, you go tell these people that we actually didn't take it. Not like you're with me, but we didn't take it. But at the same time, if you leave camp, everybody's going to watch you. And if I'm not one of the two, I'm watching both the people that did go. So I'm still hunting for the idol. But once the merge or the shuffle happens, you've got the truth. You didn't lie. They're going to find out what happened. I don't know. I'm leaning towards don't take the clue, but there's an idol out there, so start hunting. Everybody's going to hunt anyway.
Well, I think the problem with that is if you show up this big bag of rice and they still think you have a clue and you don't. I think that you kind of, like I said, I don't know if you can win in this situation.
Yeah.
It raises the question of sort of how they end up getting the role. Do they want it? Is it, by fiat? Is it by, drawing rocks? Who ends up with these roles? The truth is going to come out, what you did. I mean, eventually everyone's going to talk and everyone's going to know what the options were and who took clues and who didn't. I'm with Steve in that I wouldn't take it. All it lets you know is that there is an idol around here somewhere. There's one in each of the 3 camps, so you're going to be looking for, certain kinds of locations if you know the game at all. But it definitely is a read on who the other person is, because the truth is going to come out anyway, feed your tribe, and you need to have a read on your tribe immediately. If you think you're going to be singled out, like if I'm Will on the no callers, and I'm one of those 2 people, I'm going for the clue, and I am searching like a madman. But if you think that you're going to fit in with your tribe, I'm thinking I'm getting them food, and I know there's an idol around here. I'm going to go find it.
Right.
Now, come on, Andy. You can't assume that Will knows what an immunity idol is.
Good point.
Yeah. Well, what if Will and Vince are the 2? And they're like, immunity idol. No, I don't worship idols.
What's this thing about a self-reliance? I don't know what that
Now, could I take the smaller bag of rice and then at the first immunity challenge say, Jeff, I'd like to make a bargain with you.
Yeah.
Apparently that works.
Well, in all seriousness, if everybody got the Kage on DVD before they came out there, all you have to do when the tribe shows up and says, hey, same as Kage on, we get the clue or we get the giant rice. And we took the giant rice. And hopefully they buy it. And then, like Andy said, you go like a madman and start looking for the idol.
See, I kind of think I would, pretty much no matter who I was out there with, who I got sent out there with, I would try, my initial strategy would be to get them to make the decision, and then I would kind of go along with their decision, unless, well, that's what I would go in wanting to do, and then of course I'd play it by ear, so I can have deniability. I don't know.
I'm just saying, what would Max do? That's what I'm going to ask.
WWD.
I'm gonna wear a bracelet all season long. That says that.
WW. Oh man, we are really. I really should have never brought up Jesus in this whole podcast. Just shouldn't have done it. I just shouldn't have done it. Oh man. Well, okay. Well, then, what do you think the late game?
Gordon. Did Gordon say what he would do?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
He said what he would.
I'd take the clue and tell everybody about it. Get the idol and play it in the first challenge, first immunity, first tribal. I watch the show.
Yeah.
We're not going back to immunity, bud.
We're not going back to immunity.
Hey, Gordon, as long as we got you here, so what did they do?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, so there was somebody help me here. There was talk of a late game twist. Unless, David, you have something else to say about this.
No, just that Prope said something we've been toiling around, and I think he said we've never done it before, and it's something to give someone an advantage. And he said it, I think it was in Dalton's interview.
Yeah, I read Dalton's interview. I didn't hear anything about this, and I kept trying to go back and read the wording to note, because he didn't mention the opening twist to Dalton. So I hope there is something down the line just for entertainment's sake, but part of me is wondering, is that what he was referring to? Because it seemed odd that he would mention one and not the other to Dalton, and then one and not the other to me. So, I don't know.
So you think that there might not be a late game twist?
It just struck me as odd, but the very well could be Tyler Perry might have called him 3 in the morning, something clever. True. So you never know. Yeah.
I, for one, think that there's no way that they would ever give one player an advantage over another. So, that's not how they do things there. So.
No. Follow this camera angle.
Look at that strange tree over there.
Oh, Kelly.
Big.
Yeah, so. Y'all got to listen to the Kelly talk, because we were talking about, with a Joe, they were going to have cameramen, saying, hey, maybe you should look over here. And she was like, oh, it was so easy to use the cameramen to figure out where the clues were, or to figure out where the idols were. It's so obvious when they're out there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, thought that was fun.
Wayne, you just use any chance you can get to talk about Kelly. We get it. It's okay. We don't blame you.
Nice.
So does I haven't been checking everything out there, but is there a credible guess as to what this late game twist would be?
The only thing I've seen about it is in Dalton's piece, and there's literally nothing else to go on other than, I think, is it we thought about doing it before and now we're doing it. So I think that's literally all that's out there.
Yeah, I think his wording, and I may be imagining this, but I think the wording was suggestive that it was later in the game, and I think it said something like, it's something that we had been thinking about doing but hadn't done yet, and it played out as we had hoped.
Yeah, and he mentions earlier to Dalton that he mentions the first twist because he says, do you lie with this person? Do you trust this person? Do you vote him out later? Do you keep him around because now you're in a lie together? And then a few lines later, he mentions something brand new that they've never done before. So I think it is 2 separate twists. But I'm like Steve, I hope they don't get somebody an advantage at the end.
I hope it's a screening of Gulliver's Travels.
Either that or Jack and Jill.
Yeah,
they're in Nicaragua, so
yes.
Yeah, if you lose, you got to watch Jack and Jill again.
So Probst said it played out the way they wanted it. That means whatever this twist is, somebody really used it well. Golly, what could it be? I don't know. I just hope it's not something that after they're voted off.
No, my guess is that it probably falls into that category of, Rob C. does those think tanks and they kick around ideas, and I mean these are ideas that have been floating around the community for years now. Things like, okay, what this power this advantage gives you the ability to block one person's vote, or you can double a vote, or something like that. And I think maybe, and that's the kind of thing that they would have thought about before, but not pulled the trigger on, but might decide to do this time.
Yeah.
And I will say this about Jeff. And Gordon knows Jeff better than me, but every time I talk to Jeff and we go off the record and he starts just talking about stuff, Jeff has some pretty good ideas, and then he has some pretty horrible ideas. And you never can tell from one minute to the next what it's going to be. Years ago, he mentioned to me that he thought it would be great to have an entire season with back in the Amazon with 16 women and no men, and CBS hated that idea. So Jeff, it may be something we love, or it may be something that we're going to want to throw things at the TV. You just don't know.
Right. Wow.
I noticed that Gordon is keeping quiet because Gordon and Jeff are like this.
But you have to understand, Steve, Jeff only has good ideas. The bad ideas come from the man on the street.
Yes, Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
All right, so Mike K. From Southern California put on our chat wing. He wrote, but that's not all. Probst also teases that the white-blue no-collar designations will not be the only new twist in Survivor Worlds Apart. We have a new advantage in the game, something we've toyed with for a long time and decided to do it this year, and it plays out great. I'll leave it at that for now. So that was the second. It was a later twist.
Yes.
Okay,
here it is. Wild idea number one. Dwayne goes back to the crazy theory days of Survivor Talk with D&D. The person gets to see all the votes before they vote.
Oh, that would be good, actually. I like that.
In other words, they get to say, Jeff, I'd like to use my special ability, Shazam, and go and look at the votes before they vote. They get to look in the urn. Okay, that's just one crazy idea.
Yeah, but I like how you get there.
Red, you mean?
What? What
was
that?
You said that they're going to look at the votes before they vote. I don't understand. After they vote, but before they've been read?
So they get to vote last, and when they go up there, they get to read everybody else's vote.
Oh, okay.
But that's not a twist.
It's not a game changer.
It's not a game changer because, generally speaking, you could go up there and find out that there's 6 votes against you, and and then the whole thing just fizzles right out.
And drop them all in the fire as you walk back to your seat. But I do like where he's going with winning it, and one reward challenge later in the game is for an advantage later in the game, and that's all they win. You never find out what it is until the person goes off and reads it. I like the vote thing where you get 2 votes, or you flat out get to cancel out somebody else. But canceling out somebody else's vote is what you do anyway when you vote different than them. Yeah. I like the 2 vote thing where you actually get 2 votes instead of 1.
How about you just get to vote whoever you want off, and they have to go? You have ultimate power. Who cares what the votes are?
Immediate execution.
Immediate. Jeff Probst reads all the votes, and he goes, now, the only one that matters.
Yeah, that would be too powerful.
The craziest one that I thought of, and it'll never happen, but man, would it be interesting, is to give someone the power to decide whether or not it'll be a final 3 or a final 2.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
They're not going to give you that. That's like deciding if it's going to air on CBS or not. I mean,
they're not give him a producer credit, wouldn't they?
Come on, Steve. These aren't realistic ideas.
Clearly.
If you ever go look at the international versions of Survivor, they have all kind of crazy things like, like you said, like someone's vote doesn't count. If you're voted out, you can, leave a curse on somebody, and they have 2 votes going into the next tribal. There's all kinds of like crazy stuff like that might be interesting or worth a shot, or who knows? It worked out the way it was supposed to. So
Jeff's big idea could be he watched Survivor some other nation and thought, hey, that's a good idea. That could be it. All right. All right, so y'all were wanting to. Somebody wanted to talk about how the cast was put together. That was you, Andy, right? Have you already talked about that?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on the various pieces of it, but from what we can gather, it's just the reason why this cast is so strong is that they put after 29, put a big emphasis on getting people in who knew the game, who had higher IQs perhaps, and just would come in and be able to hit the ground running. They didn't want to have 2 seasons in a row where you were dealing with lots of people who just didn't know what the options available to them were. And so what you end up with is a group of people who, when you see them interviewed, it's like, oh gosh, they know this game. They know not just the players. It's not this surface understanding and they can talk about boot list, but they actually seem to know how the game works.
They had some real problems. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, basically about halfway through season 29, Probst went, okay, we're recasting 30, because he was so frustrated with 29.
That's exactly what happened.
Oh, cool.
Yes, there were several people who were supposed to be on this cast who ended up not being on this cast, and they started going into a lot of casting at the last minute. I know several people who were put on this cast pretty late, later than normal. They didn't even have a chance to cut out carbs so that they looked good on TV. And so that was, I mean, what happened was they decided that they didn't like where it was going, and they made some changes. And they do that. I mean, this isn't the first time they've ever done that.
So Probst called casting and said, add one more question.
Well, I don't know that it was Probst.
What is a sub-alliance?
Yes.
Make sure they know what a sub-alliance is before they fill out the questionnaire.
I'm not saying it's Probst, but I'm saying that they made some. I'll even say this: somebody else on this panel and me both had friends who were close to making the season, and things changed at the last minute.
Yeah,
and this is me dropping the mic. So.
I mean, I'm not giving anything away, and I'm not talking about the person involved, but the woman that I know, I mean, literally was told she was in the cast and was waiting for final confirmation, had filled out all the paperwork, and they were asking for a final doctor's visit, and 2 weeks before she had to sort of pull the plug because she had to commit one way or the other, and they wouldn't tell her. And again, this was 2 weeks before the plane left. And wow. Again, I mean, if this is what it ends up leading to, then I guess crisis is a good thing. And it's, I mean, it's interesting. I'd be curious to find out, if we ever can find out, all the people who were late ads, how well they did in the game, and does it help to have lead time to prepare, or is just being thrown in without having to sort of stress and worry about it? Does that give you some sort of advantage? I don't know.
Gordon is being super quiet. Do you guys all notice that?
It's because I gotta.
He could add to the conversation, but it'd be.
But he chooses not to.
You sign that non-disclosure, and you gotta respect that.
Yeah.
So,
Jeff just texted Gordon.
Oh, please.
Turn off your computer, Holmes.
Jeff's like, I don't know who these D&D guys are, but you better be careful. Oh, well, whatever they did, I'm glad they did it. Because this season looks like it's going to be one really, really good season.
Hey, if each of you got put on this season, which tribe would you want to be on?
I think based on my career, I would have to be white collar, but it seems like that's not necessarily a prerequisite. They could be like, oh, well, Gordon, he loves candles, so clearly he's a no collar.
Yeah,
but
clearly. He has a feather in his house.
Right. So, I think, maybe blue collar be easier to lead in a way, and, white collar might have too many chiefs. So I guess I probably would want to be blue collar, because I feel like that's where I would make the most waves.
This is not a season that I would do well on, so I don't know that it really matters. But yeah, I think white collar would be where I would be placed, but I think that blue collar I would have a better chance at.
Yeah.
I'd end up. I don't know that I fit any of the categories.
Some of them don't either. It's okay.
I mean, I was once an agent's assistant, so I guess I'm white collar. But I think I vibe better with the no collars, but I wouldn't want to be the old guy on that tribe.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm a teacher. What the hell are we?
Underpaid, but yeah, go ahead.
Underpaid.
Yeah. So, but I hear you. I agree with Gordon. Like I think blue collar fits with that's a tribe that I think I could distinguish myself in.
Yeah.
Well, if you've been paying attention to how Probst describes the collars, we all know that blue collar are the world's best people. No collars are all they're going to change the world, and white collar are the worst bastards of every great society. They're monsters. Joaquin doesn't look down on his. He is actually proud of it. Do you believe it? Proud of being a white collar monster.
He's also proud that he watched a couple seasons and saw all he needed to see. So he's good to go.
Yeah.
Now, I am struggling with one thing because, generally speaking, when I do my exit interviews and everything, I'm kinder to some people than I am to others. And I'm trying to decide right now whether I'm going to be really, really kind to Max throughout the season or whether I'm not. And time will tell. So.
Yeah. Do y'all have any final three predictions?
That you want to share? Because I know you got articles and rankings coming out and stuff. Is there anything you want to, or like somebody from each tribe?
Gordon, who are you ranking with this season?
This year, for the first time ever, in what might be a disaster, we're doing a special three-way dance, a triple threat match, if you will.
Oh, that's right.
The Broadway betrothed, Josh versus Reed versus me. They're not teaming up. The thing is, like, I'm trying to figure out how to make it work on the page.
Yeah.
So like the text isn't so tiny. And
yeah.
formatting that thing is such a royal pain in the ass. I love the power rankings, but putting them together is a disaster. But three tribes. I wanted to have three people try something new, and those two really seem to be like of the duos, the ones that knew the most, were most likely to give funny answers. I wanted to see what fairy tale character they thought I was most like. So it'll be those three.
That'll be fun.
As far as like who I'm pulling like from each tribe, I kind of like if blue collar has the potential to be a train wreck. Someone like Kelly could come out of that really well because I can see her keeping her cool. From the white collars, again, I think it's going to be a lot of butting heads, a lot of alphas. Max, I hate to say it, but he knows his stuff, and I think he's someone who can keep a cool head. And of the no collars,
why do you hate to say it? I'm just curious. Why do you hate to say that?
Because I know he's listening.
Yeah.
From the no collars, I want to say Joe, but like he's got this golden boy thing going where I think people are going to be really wary of him, and he's going to have a target real soon. Jen, I like a lot. I can see her, really, really winning some people over. So those are a rough estimation of who I like so far.
Somebody else.
Well,
no, I mean, I liked yours, Gordon. I'm just, let's move on. Someone.
Go ahead, Steve.
When it comes to blue collar, I like Mike to do well, though. I think he's going to be too much of a target if he makes it past the merge. So I don't think you can go wrong with a barrel racer. So I just don't. So I like Sierra, but white collar, I do think some of my favorite people on the cast and some of my least favorite people on the cast will be on this tribe. So it will be really interesting to see, and everybody who knows the Survivor community is going to watch to see how Max does.
Right.
As much as I would love to see him flame out early just for fun, I think he's going to go far. And then when it comes to the no-collar tribe, whatever. Seriously, if they're the first 6 off, I'll be like, yeah, okay, well, there we go. So.
Poor misguided Steve.
Poor misguided Steve.
Here's a quick question. Other than Russell Hantz when he came back for his 3rd time, has any player ever had as much heat on them going into the game as Max? Because if Max is the first one done, the poor guy could never turn on a computer ever again.
I think that's just within the Survivor community. We like to talk about it. It's not all that big. No, I should say it differently. As opposed to the fact that everybody knew who Russell was because they'd seen him. Millions of people had seen him on seasons. Right now, Max is getting some hate from a few hundred, maybe a couple thousand people. So it's a different animal. I will say he's probably the most controversial one. In the Survivor community, for a new contestant, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, without sort of going too heavily into my history with Max, I think he's in an interesting spot in that I think it matters to him that he shows well. Because I think he staked some reputation on it, and I think he cares about the game deeply, and there's some sort of sense of validation. And my own experience with Bob Crowley's game in Maine, obviously very insignificant compared to the real thing, but me stepping out there, having written the blog and having some sense of thinking that I know how to play the game. If I had been first off, I would have been like, what the I need to stop writing because what the hell do I know? I can back it up. And Max is in that spot of having to back it up. I also think Max has this I think he wants to win, but I think he's there to make great television. I think he's there to experience the game that he's thought about and written about and cared about for years. But I think he's playing so he can play again. But whatever hate he's getting, to some degree he's brought upon himself by some of his ego. I mean, some people ran into him at the season 29 finale, and he was at the after party, and was, the ego was on display. And if anything's going to knock him out of this game, it's going to be that he'll rub some people the wrong way with the ego.
I think a lot of the hate is also, let's face it, some jealousy in the fact that he is getting to do what a lot of people would like to do, and a lot of people who he's been associating with for years. So I'll give him some benefit of the doubt on that. So. Yeah,
and again, I'm not gonna. When you talked, Steve, before about are you gonna show somebody some love or are you gonna be snarky about him? I'm only gonna support Max, and I want him to do well. He's a super fan who knows his stuff, and those are the kinds of players I want to see play well. And he's on my short list of they're going to have to wrest the game out of his hands. I mean, he's up there. I think in my sort of dream fan fiction, he and Sheeran are working together and then have to turn on each other post-merge, and that battle is going to decide who coasts to the end. I see Mike being good from the blue collar, but he's going to turn into a target. I see Joe, that golden boy thing you talked about, Gordon. I think that's true. They'll see him as a threat. He might be a late casualty. I really would just want to keep an eye on Jen and Hallie. I think they're going to be one heck of a tandem, and I think that they could end up forming a pretty strong alliance post-merge, assuming that the target's not on them until then. But go Max.
All right. Well, let's see. Y'all got anything else? Any topics that y'all wanted to bring to the table that I didn't bring up already?
I'm just honored that I was on the same panel as Gordon.
Oh, stop.
Nice.
I just wanted to, I feel like this season is really, really hyped. And, Grant, I don't know much about it past what I saw. But I do, like, the one thing I keep reiterating is, Probst does not have a poker face. And after the first, after when we were leaving, it's probably the most excited I've ever seen him for anything for a season going forward. So, just based on what we saw, like I'm super excited, and it's good to be excited about Survivor. I did
Right.
I did Rob's where we cast the fantasy blue collar, white collar, no collar, and I kind of went back through my notes just before the cast was announced, just to get a feel for just to get Probst's definitions again and things like that, and just hearing some of these things and reading some of these notes, just getting excited again. And it was, like I think San Juan del Sur was a fine season. Not my favorite, not my least favorite, but it's like I wasn't excited for Wednesday as much as I want to be, and I feel really excited again. So I can't wait. I'm super psyched.
That's pretty awesome to know that even so. Apparently, because you left after 2 or 3 days.
I leave after the first tribal.
Okay, so that's 2 or 3 days, and he was already excited because that's great news. Because last season, after the first, he was like, "What the heck is Val doing?" So I mean, we had high hopes for Val, but what in the world? Yeah, so that's good to know. Anybody have any other topics that they wanted to bring up? Or this will be the shortest D&D podcast in the history of our podcasting.
Short. We've been doing this for like what, 2 hours?
Hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, really?
It just feels like that. Thank you.
I mean, okay, yeah.
I mean, hey, we've talked about it. David, do you have anything else?
I'm trying to think, because I did, and I can't remember. Let me check and see if our others had anything else, because they had a bunch.
There's nothing else on the live chat. How about you, Andy? Anything else?
No, I think we covered it. I mean, we didn't walk through every single player, but I think we pretty much covered who we think is going to be a factor.
Well, I tell you what, then let's go down the panel and tell us what you're going to be doing this season, where our listeners can find you, and we'll start with Andy.
I'm going to be writing the Baker's Dozen over at True Dork Times. I was working on my preseason column today. It'll probably be out someday next week. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to have I'm going to write when the spirit strikes. If it's a great season, it'll end up probably being pretty regularly, but I've got a 4-month-old in the house, and I can't swear to a weekly schedule, but I'm going to, I always say that, and then I can't help but write about it, because even when Survivor's bad, it's great, because I love the show. I mean, I know people say that I'm a hater. I'm not. I love the game, and if these people are going to play it the way we think they're going to play it, it's going to be a great season, and I'll be eager to write about it.
Awesome. So y'all go to True Dork Times, and even if Andy's not writing on there, which he is, but even if he wasn't, True Dork Times, Jeff Pittman, amazing website. You really should go there. I mean, there's so much stuff on that site, so you should go there.
And Gordon, his preseason column, his column's up, and it's good.
Yeah. Gordon?
Well, True Dork Times is amazing, but they don't have a section on the press immunity challenges yet. So if Jeff could get on that, I would appreciate it.
Yes, Jeff, you have heard, Jeff.
Come on, Jeff. Somebody's got a 6-challenge winning streak that needs a little more adulation. So coming up, we have 3 more interviews left. We've got Lindsay, we've got Nina, we've got Max. I'm doing this thing with Probst and Parvati. I'm calling it the strategy roundtable, where the 3 of us talk about each individual player and how we would deal with them if we were in the game with them.
Oh, nice.
And there's a couple other surprises, not just people from this season, but with some all-stars, some classic players, stuff like that. I still have an interview with John Kerhofer I have to transcribe. We're going to have preseason picks with the Broadway betrothed, Josh and Reed. We're going to have my preseason picks. Once the season starts, we get a recap every week. We get an exit interview every week. We get power rankings every week. The best way to find that is me on Twitter, Gordon Holmes. Also, I started an Instagram account because I have hundreds of pictures from the seasons I've been to that have just been sitting on a hard drive for the longest time. So I just started kind of dumping them on Instagram, just if anybody would find them interesting. Stuff from Survivor Gabon, Survivor Nicaragua, Survivor South Pacific, Survivor the Philippines, and Survivor Blood versus Water, and of course Survivor Worlds Apart. So Gordon W. Holmes is the Instagram to go to for that, and
Awesome.
that's what I got.
And some of those are behind-the-scene pictures. I saw a few of them.
Yeah, we have stuff from the art department. We have stuff from the tribals. We have stuff from the camps. We have stuff from the challenges. We got stuff.
Encyclopedia Mike K, says, Gordon, your immunity challenge article was outstanding.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And you apparently had no grammatical errors in it, or he would have told us.
I failed. I do not believe that there was not a grammatical error. Look closer. There's got to be one. I'll tell you one thing. I went skiing with my now fiance, then girlfriend, about a year ago, and messed up my knee pretty badly. And my first thought was, I'm gonna lose the next immunity challenge. It's embarrassing, but it's true.
Yes.
So to be down there tying knots and Probst just giving me grief, I was like, man, this is all my fiance's fault.
If
Awesome.
Kate can do it, you can do it.
All right, Steve. So when you're not on TV doing stuff, talking about, golly, what was the latest thing that you talked about? I saw
Anything
it.
Nancy Grace wants to talk
No,
about.
I was on MSNBC this morning and I was talking about Tiger Woods, but
That's it. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah. So how'd you know? Oh, anyway, basically what I'm going to be doing this season is obviously I do the exit interviews, but then I would say follow me on Twitter because I have a lot of Survivor things coming up. I'm going to 2 former Survivors' weddings during this season.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things are going on with, if you are into the characters and if you're into the people, I have some really good stories coming up about them. Mine, of course, is a lot more mass media than, mass media is not the right word. Mine is for the casual fan a lot more than Gordon's. I mean, Gordon is the next best thing to actually being on the show. Mine is going to be more, the People magazine treatment with who's getting married, who's having a baby, which there's a few of those happening. That type of thing. There's a reason why it's People magazine that announces every time Kim Spradlin gets pregnant or whatever. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to be bringing to the table this season, both about some contestants that are on this season and ones that are on previous seasons. So follow me on Twitter at Steve Helling, just my name, and you'll see what I'm up to.
Awesome. Of course, David and I's podcast will be up every week. We'll be doing it live every Thursday at 10. We have 2 bloggers on our site, Shayna, who should have a preseason blog up here pretty quickly, and Alex, who already has his up. If you haven't read it, go read it. And then I actually think, David, and the rest of you who care, that I am going to be writing some song parodies for this season. And so we should have some good fodder for that. So I'm looking forward to that.
We had 0 last season, right? We tried to get one together.
I almost did. It's all about that brat, but I went Christmas shopping instead.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to Jeff about Jeff Pittman, not Jeff Probst, but I was talking to Jeff about song parodies for some reason. And he goes, "Yeah, I don't really like song parodies, but yours were good. I just don't like them."
those things I hate, you're not too bad at them.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he said. Oh man. So we do want to thank our monthly patrons over at patreon.com and our Amazon shoppers. Thank you so much. You can follow David and I on Twitter at Survivor_talk. Join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/SurvivorTalk. And before I let us go, David, is there anything else that I missed that you want to say that you need to get off your chest?
Yeah, we'll think about it. It'll come up about an hour from now.
Okay.
When I'm sitting watching something on Netflix, I say, "Oh, I wish I'd asked this." We got these 3 guys sitting here, and I know there's more we want to ask.
Yeah.
Other than going through over every castaway, I mean, we've hit most all that. We've hit the twist. We've hit the season itself. I guess we haven't talked about the location, but that's Nicaragua.
That's Nicaragua.
Nicaragua. I will say that we were, I like to get snarky on podcasts about these people. But yes, for those of you who are offended if I said anything about you, I certainly didn't mean it, and you guys are lovely and wonderful. and give me a good exit interview, please.
I'm so glad I don't do exit interviews. I really am. I just really am glad I don't have to do those. Anyway, I'm sure it's a privilege, but glad I don't have to. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and that's all I got. Thank you, Andy, for coming on the show.
Peace. Thanks. Good night, guys. Pleasure.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you. And just so you know, exit interviews are where you respond to Crystal Cox about the terrible things you wrote about her. So they are a good time.
All right. Thank you, Steve, for being on the show.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
And David, as always, you're my best friend, bud. I enjoy talking to you. All right. All right. Well, that's all we got, guys. We will talk to you later. Adios.
Bye.
See ya.